In 2020, a very important study was released titled Population Genomics of the Viking World. In that study, there were ancient DNA samples from two different mass grave burial sites in southern England that can be attributed to executed Vikings during the Viking Age. To quote the study, quote, Viking Age execution sites in Dorset and Oxford, England, have significant North Atlantic-like ancestry, as well as Danish-like and Norwegian-like ancestries. If these represent Viking raiding parties that were defeated and captured, then they were composed of individuals of different origins, end quote. Recently, a new preprint was released titled Steppe Ancestry in Western Eurasia and the Spread of the Germanic Languages. In the supplementary information from the preprint, ancient DNA samples that were mentioned in previous studies were assigned to various genetic clusters. Using these genetic clusters, we can now gain a better idea regarding the autosomal makeup and origins of these Vikings in England. There were 8 ancient DNA samples from Oxford and Dorset combined that tested positive for a subclade downstream of IM253, and I was able to retrieve genetic cluster data for 7 out of 8 samples. 3 out of 8 Vikings were assigned to the South Scandinavian cluster, which can be associated with a Denmark origin. Another 3 Vikings were assigned to the North Scandinavian cluster, which can be associated with a Norway origin. And 1 Viking was assigned to the East Scandinavian cluster, which can be associated with a Sweden origin. So even though the Danes did have the largest influence in England during the Viking Age, and hence we have the Dane law, it doesn't necessarily mean, though, that if you live in England and have a Viking Age direct patrilineal ancestor, that he was necessarily from Denmark. And even if he was from Denmark and accompanied the Danish Vikings westward to England, it doesn't necessarily mean that his ancestors in the previous generations didn't come from somewhere else in the general Scandinavian region. To further quote the 2020 study, quote, our genomic analysis shed light on long-standing questions raised by historical sources and archaeological evidence of the Viking Age. We largely confirm the long-argued movements of Vikings outside Scandinavia. Danish Vikings going to Britain, Norwegian Vikings moving to Ireland, Iceland, and Greenland, and Swedish Vikings sailing east towards the Baltic and beyond. However, we also see ancient Swedish-like and FL ancestry in the westernmost fringes of Europe, and Danish-like ancestry in the east define modern historical groupings. It is likely that many such individuals were from communities with mixed ancestries thrown together by complex trading, raiding, and settling networks that cross cultures and the continent, end quote. Because of these complex trading, raiding, and settling networks that cross cultures and continents, one must keep an open mind regarding the patrilineal origins of their direct Viking patrilineal ancestor. Thanks for watching.